How are you?
I am good. Hey, sorry, man. I've been having trouble with my phone.
That's okay. It happens.
I totally apologize about that, man. I've been trying so hard to call in, and I've been having phone problems. So, but I got it figured out now. So I apologize.
Oh, don't apologize. It's okay. I'm just glad my co-host Jer was kind of choking with the phone to figure it out. He had a hard time.
How limited English?
Did you guys make stuff up before I got on?
We're just making stuff up, waiting for you. But it's
Just
all
telling lies.
Exactly.
I was gonna start telling jokes.
Well, I'm ready, guys. So let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do it. Can you maybe start a little bit, just a brief, how you got into BJJ, who's your teacher, your rank type of thing that the usual people love to know?
You bet. Well, I have been in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now for about, 20, 21 years. My professor is Professor Pedro Sauer. Pedro Sauer is a student under Hickson and Elio Gracie. Professor's one of the original guys. Not a Gracie, but he might as well be one because he hung around the family that long. And I was fortunate enough back in, 93, 94, I saw the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and I saw Royce Gracie choking out Dan Severn. And I said, hey, man, I got to learn this. And at that time, there was only like 3 people in the United States that were doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was the Gracie Academy down in California. It was Craig Kukuk and Henzo Gracie in New York. And then there was Pedro Sauer in Salt Lake, and I just happened to live super close to Salt Lake, so I got really lucky. I'm sure there was a couple other guys, but, man, I didn't know. Internet wasn't very great, so I had no idea. So, and I've been doing it now for about 21 years, and rocking and rolling, man. And I've been a black belt now for about 6 years, and I'm just starting to know what the hell I'm doing. So
I'm 21, so I think you've been doing it as long as I've been alive. So.
Well, I've been doing it a long time, but it only seems like a short while, man, that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been in America. And boy, there's been a lot of changes, and I got to say the changes have been for the better. I don't think it's been for the worse. Things are going great, man. UFC guys are now using BJJ to rock it. They look good, so I like it. So I'm really excited about how it's transpired in America.
So looking back, if you didn't get into Jiu-Jitsu, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Well, I was a martial arts instructor to begin with, so regardless of whether I was in Jiu-Jitsu, I was already a black belt in martial arts. So I don't know, I've been maybe 26, 27 years in the martial arts, so I'd be doing martial arts anyway, stand-up martial arts, and I've done a lot of that, and it's been an awesome thing. And man, I saw the Gracies kicking butt, and I said, man, I got to learn how to do that. It's been weird in my life too, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but when I was a kid, I loved pro wrestling. So I used to do pro wrestling all the time, and in the backyard, the backyard pro wrestling, just all kinds of that stuff, and I loved it. And and when the Gracies are coming around, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And I always hated regular high school wrestling because it was always muscle, man, and guys were like a lot stronger than I was all the time. So I just didn't like it.
Oh, I hear you, man. I used to take couch cushions off everywhere, do every wrestling move you can imagine.
Yeah, and so it's been, when Jiu-Jitsu came along, and wow, it's something I don't have to use muscle on, and I can still win a guy. Man, it was awesome. So I've been doing that ever since, and I think it's nothing wrong with wrestling. I mean, that's cool, but what do you do when you're older? And you get old and you don't have that kind of muscle, man. I guess you get beat up or do Jiu-Jitsu, one of the two.
I like it. I was actually going to ask you, Keith, being a black belt in other martial arts, Kung Fu, correct?
Yeah, I have two other black belts in Kung Fu, and one of my instructors is a man named Joe Cowles, and Joe was a former student of Bruce Lee, so I got to learn a lot about Sifu Bruce through Joe Cowles. So I have a lot of stand-up background too, as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Do you think doing other martial arts helps your depth or your skill set in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? other people should try different martial arts?
I think, I'm just going to say this. I think that learning a stand-up martial art, if you're a stand-up martial artist and then you start doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll pick it up way quicker than a guy who's never had anything. It's amazing. I'll have stand-up guys that'll come and say, I want to start taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they do, and they just pick it up real fast. So I think, yes, they understand the concepts a lot better. They understand about fighting. Their body is more capable of doing the moves. So I think it really helps to have a stand-up martial art. And, just on this point, too, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's, not everything in fighting. I mean, if you're in a street fight out on the street, you want to punch a guy in the face and get away, not necessarily wrestle with him. So, but at the same time, if you go to the ground out on the street, you're going to be happy that you have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I think they complement each other really well. And, BJJ guys should be doing some stand-up, should be doing Muay Thai or something like that to augment their training.
I agree with you. What styles of Kung Fu, just so people know, I'm curious myself.
Say that again, I apologize.
What style of the Kung Fu did you actually take so people know?
Oh, well, the style of Kung Fu that I took is, two styles. One is Thai Kung Fu. The Thai Kung Fu is a Kempo martial art. The Grand Master was a man named David Carroll, and he did the Thai martial arts system, and it's really a Kempo offshoot with joint locks. And then the one that I took from Joe Cal's it's called Wu Wei Kung Fu. Wu Wei stands for spontaneous action, and it's really cool because it's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu standing up. I mean, you're fighting a guy, and you don't really know what's happening next, and your body just moves, and there's a lot of trapping involved. So it's like it's a trapping martial art like Wing Chun, but Joe added joint locks with it, so it's really kind of like two martial arts in one. You get the trapping of the Wing Chun with joint locking, and man, that was always a lot of fun. And you just didn't know what your body was going to do. It's funny because you see Bruce Lee movies, Enter the Dragon, where he's pointing and be like water and flow like water, and you go, what the hell does that mean? And until you start taking the martial art and you go, oh, I get what he's saying. You're like water. You just move around it. You don't, when there's an opening, you just go right through it. You just go to where he leads you. So, it's really, I tell you, it's really helped with my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the Wu Wei Kung Fu. So I was very fortunate enough to be able to take it from Joe Calvin. I learned some great Bruce Lee stories too that people don't know. So.
Well, you're gonna have to save those for a book one day.
Some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff.
He was unreal. I remember actually he pulled off an armbar and entered the Dragon. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was doing Brazilian. He was doing grappling before grappling was cool, man. He understood what was going on, but he just hadn't quite got there yet. But I assure you, if he were alive today, he'd have some kind of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu going on.
Oh, most likely. He's a great martial artist. Just change the subject real quick. You being under Pedro Sauer, what does that mean to you?
Well, what that means to me is, and I don't mean to insult anybody else's instructor, but Professor Sauer is the greatest jiu-jitsu instructor in the world today. And, I know a lot of people say that, but, man, I'm really serious about it. He knows more about jiu-jitsu than any human being I have ever met, and I've done a lot of seminars, and Professor Sauer just has all the answers to everything. It's just truly amazing. Now, you'll sit there and you're listening to that going, yeah, whatever I take with him, and he knows about. But Professor Sauer, he's got this uncanny ability to know almost any way to get out of whatever, but he has a great way of teaching it to you as well. So it's not just the knowledge base, it's the way he teaches it. So if people are a fan of me and they like what I offer, it's really because of Professor Sauer. He knows so many cool little tricks and details, and he understands the concept of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where it's really for you always assume that everybody's bigger and stronger than you. And it's not about overpowering. It's about using the tricks that you have to really, just trick a guy into submitting. He just doesn't see it coming. And, man, I could not be more happy being his student. And I have trained under lots of people who are great great instructors, but man, I tell you this, you go to a Pedro Sauer seminar, it will blow your mind. So you go, oh man, you will find out jiu-jitsu that you didn't think existed. And I don't think a lot of people really know. And if you ask any Pedro Sauer rep, they'll tell you the same thing I'm telling you. It's just he's an amazing man. He's one of the best in the world, and I'm just very proud to be his student. And that's why at every turn I could say how great he is. I really try to, because, and let me just say this. Outside of being a great instructor and a great teacher, because I've already told you that, he is a really great human being. He tries to help everybody and give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and he never has a bad word to say about anybody. And so that's been really good, because I try to follow his example. I always say, what would Professor do in a situation like that? And and it always, hey, he's always preaching forgiveness, because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, first of all, it's full of a lot of assholes. They're just everywhere. And I mean, lots of bad intentions, people talking bad about each other, trying to hurt each other's feelings, downplaying everybody. And I try not to do that. And Professor Sauer, I've never heard him say a bad word about anybody. And that's always been awesome. So he's been a good example as well of what I think an all-around perfect instructor should be.
Man, that sums it up. That's pretty good, man.
I'm excited. Can you tell how excited I am when I talk about Professor Sauer? And a lot of his black belts are the same way. I mean, and again, you're going to think that I'm being egotistical here, and I don't think so at all. I think we're some of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors. I'm not saying competitors in the world, but I am saying best Jiu-Jitsu instructors as far as giving you some of the details that you go, wow, I can't believe that he knew that or he showed that to me. I mean, and it's not just me, it's every Pedro Sauer black belt has the cool details, and it's all because of Professor Sauer. I mean, I just happen to be one that's a little bit more out there, but and you go to any one of these guys and they're just top notch, some of the top guys in the world. I love learning from my counterparts, guys who are the same belt rank. I'll go to their seminar because I know I'll pick up some awesome moves that maybe I didn't see before.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
At what point do you think you should start developing that philosophical stage where you should start thinking, like, why am I doing this? Like, you know what I mean?
Say it one more time for me, just so I make sure I understand the question.
At what point, I don't know, belt or whatever, but when do you start developing that sort of philosophical side, I guess, like when you start to ask questions?
I got to tell you, the philosophical side for me came at around brown belt. However, I think you'll get your philosophical side for sure when you get to be a black belt, because man, you go so hard at trying to tap people out, and that's all well and good. But I get to tell you this. You'll learn so much more at black belt. I can't believe when I got my black belt how much more I've learned about the technique of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And let me tell you guys, it's a technique that you use, and it's not just pure muscle. I mean, guys, you're a young guy. If you're 20 years old, and you can do 5,000 push-ups, yeah, you can use your muscle, and that's fine. But you know what? You see MMA guys, and they're just muscling and everything, and that works. That's really awesome. But when you get older, and when you get 25, when you get 30, when you get 31, 40, 50, your muscle isn't going to be quite there. Your timing's not going to be quite there. Your speed isn't going to be quite there. So, but I guarantee you this, you can rely on the technique of jiu-jitsu really well. And that's the exciting part of it. And you start to understand the theory a lot more when you get to be a black belt. And, as a teacher, especially, if you'll be a teacher, you're going to have to impart this stuff to your students. And you got to know it to be able to impart it, because if you don't know it, you're going to not sound very good. You're not going to sound very communicative and be able to impart that to them. So I think at black belt, it'll really start to understand it, man. At blue belt, white belt, it's a total maze that people are trying to figure out and understand. And purple belt, you're starting to get a hold of it. And I got a hold of it pretty good at brown belt, but nothing like when I got my black belt. And the more I'm in jiu-jitsu, the more that I see that it's not about muscle. It's try to use the least amount of muscle that you possibly can. And boy, for some people that's hard, especially for Americans, you know, where wrestling's a big part of the culture, and you go hard and you go fast, and I mean, it works, it does, but you don't see people after they graduate college going, hey man, let's start a collegiate wrestling program in our garage. You know, their bodies are beat up, you know. But what they'll do is they'll say, hey, let's start a jiu-jitsu program, you and I, and we'll get some guys together, and then they treat it just like wrestling, and then people get hurt. So, you know, I don't know if I answered your question, but black belt is wow, where it's really getting good.
I guess that gives me time to slack. Right?
No, that definitely gave me also sparked a couple of questions I had lined up with a couple of your answers. So if it seems like I'm jumping back to something you said, I am. You said that all Pedro Sauer instructors, probably some of the best. You said maybe not competing, but definitely some of the best coaches.
Yes.
Wondering if you found that people are kind of getting off that path of actually teaching everything that's inside of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just focusing a little too much on what plays a big role in tournament-style competitions for grappling.
Sure. That's a great question. You know, let me just tell you why the Brazilian or Pedro Sauer black belts aren't probably, I would say, the greatest competitors in the world. And it's not because they can't be, because we have a lot of guys, Jeff Curran, Johnny Carlquist. There's a lot of guys that are competing, and they win gold all the time. James Gardner is a black belt under Professor Sauer who wins all the time. So there's a lot of guys. There are guys that do that. But you know what? Professor has never pushed the tournament side too much. You know, I mean, there's a lot of associations that say, hey, you got to go to tournaments and you got to compete. And Professor has never been like that. You know, he's been focused on self-defense primarily in what he's teaching. So a lot of things are focused on the traditional Gracie style of self-defense, and he hasn't really pushed the tournament side. The Professor's never been a world champion as far as I know. I would be surprised. I'd be like, how come I didn't know that? He might be, but you know, he's definitely been to tournaments and he's won them, but he's never really pushed us to do that. I've been to tournaments. I've competed, you know, but I'm no world champion either, and I don't see a lot of us being like that. He's pushed more of the teach your students how to be awesome in jiu-jitsu more than anything. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. Could we be world champions? I suppose so. I mean, if that were our focus, you know, like a lot of the other associations. But as far as people focusing on just the tournament side of it, you know, I think the tournament side is awesome because I'll just say this, and I'm just speaking for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else in our association, but I think tournaments are an important thing to do, man. And one of the reasons is it tests yourself right at that moment, all right, where you're at that moment against competition. I mean, we can't go out and go get into a fight or anything like that to see how our jiu-jitsu is. So what's the closest thing we do? We go to tournaments. And I'm big on them. I mean, our team, Team Rhino, we've won lots of medals. We've gone to Pan Ams and we've succeeded and done quite well. I can't say that for all of the Pedro Sauer affiliates. I think maybe half of them might go to tournaments and a lot don't. And I don't begrudge that at all. But if you are a tournament competitor, good for you. You should go to tournaments. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, having said that, man, we're living in a world now of our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where, and I get this a lot, well, Keith Owens never won, you know, world championship. Why should I listen to him? Like, really, that's the only reason that you should ever listen to somebody is because he's won a world championship. Like, that's not everybody's goal. Everybody's goal is to, you know, be a self-defense expert maybe. And it doesn't mean that you have cruddy jiu-jitsu just because you don't go, you know, you don't spend your time and effort traveling around the country doing tournaments. I mean, that's not the issue. So I don't point at a tournament guy and go, oh, you're just a tournament guy. You must not know self-defense. I love tournaments. I'm cool with that. But at the opposite time, I mean, I'll show a technique on a video or something, and I'll have guys go, you know, they'll post something like, oh, well, you can't use that at a tournament. Well, I mean, that's not the only thing in the entire world. So, So you got to understand that. But can you take tournament get some tournament moves from a guy like me? You're damn right you can. I can show a lot of things that work and tap guys out, and you should be paying attention to the moves I do, because a lot of them are easy to do. Where do I get them? I get them from Professor Sauer. But are we tournament guys? No, not really. I don't think that matters, though. I don't think that should matter as far as what you watch and who you watch.
I agree. Speaking of your videos, man, you're everywhere. You're on, man. If anyone just Googles your name, I mean, you pop up a million times. So how do people, other than just Googling your name, self-promote yourself? Here's your chance, Keith.
Well, I hooked up with Submissions 101. I have one of my students owns Submissions 101. His name is Ari Bolden, and I'm very proud of this guy. He's a good guy. He's been an awesome student of mine, and he promotes me pretty heavily on Submissions 101, which I'm very thankful. You know, and if he didn't promote me, I'd still be his instructor. I don't really care. But I've been fortunate enough to be on Submissions 101, and man, I'll tell you this. It's a tough road being out there, being well known. There's a lot of guys who kind of want to be well known. I'm not going to say famous because I don't think that at all, but more of the well known kind of guy. Master Lloyd Irvin, he's a well known kind of guy, and he backs it up and he proves it and everything like that. But man, you got to have thick skin to be able to take the criticism that people want to heap on you. And so if you're a black belt out there, or you ever want to do videos, you got to watch out, man, because you better be able to take your share of criticism. But I'm going to tell you this: there's nothing better. I get hundreds of emails. I'd probably say 100 emails every couple months from people telling me that they've used a move that I've shown and it's worked for them at a tournament, worked for them in the gym. And man, it doesn't get any better than that when the people are using your material and succeeding with it. I always tell my students too, and I don't mean to be egotistical because that's not really who I am, but if you'll just use my moves, just do what I tell you, you will succeed, because the moves are tricky, but they're simple at the same time. And so, and that's really the key. So, and I think people like my material too. I mean, I show a lot of it and people really like it. I mean, they're telling me they like it. So I'm just fortunate enough to be, I guess, more well known than other people. But it can be a tough road, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, the people, some of the shit they say under some YouTube videos. I mean, some say it just to say it to try to get people going, but some are cruel. I've read some under my own videos that we do for interviews.
Sure.
Man, they don't have a problem tearing you up.
Yeah, and you're going to experience that too with your podcast. You want your name out there. You want to be heard from other people. I got to tell you, just being honest, there's a lot of dumbasses out there. They think they know jiu-jitsu and they don't know anything. I mean, they don't know anything, but yet it's easy to keyboard warrior everything. And so you got your haters. Let me just sum it up here, because you're going to experience your share of haters. Let me tell you. When your podcast gets to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which I'm assuming that's what you want to do, but you just got to have thick skin, man. Haters, it's like, that's the best thing that could ever happen to you, because, man, the worst thing that could ever happen to you is no one says a damn thing about you. So as long as they're taking the time to say something bad about you, at least they're taking the time to think about you, so, which is awesome. I mean, I love haters. I don't mind. I mean, it's cool, because I love helping the people that I help. If you'll take my move, most of them are free anyway. Take them and use them, man. That's the day I die. I'll be thinking of that, man. The jiu-jitsu that I showed has helped a lot of people to get better in jiu-jitsu, and that's what excites me. That's what gets me up every day.
I'm not gonna lie. I stole your shrimp. I saw what you said most people do, and I saw you reenact my actual shrimp. So I'm trying to change.
It's awesome.
Video, by the way, man. I was laughing my ass off just watching it. This one sticks out to me, and in case people don't know or have heard this before, and if they did, I'm sure they don't mind hearing it again. Can you speak on 10,000 taps and not you get 1,000 taps?
Yeah. I've never been tapped out 10,000 times. I'm just going to be honest. I haven't been tapped out that many times. I'm prepared to be tapped out that many times, and that's what you should expect. What we do is we are so focused on winning. All right. I mean, you always want to win, but the problem is this. I would have no problem with the attitude of I've got to win every match that I'm in if you never got injured. I mean, if I could guarantee you never get injured, I'd say go out and just go win, man. Go as hard as you can and go do whatever you want to do. That's fantastic. I mean, you could go do that, and guys do that all the time. The problem is guys get injured, all right? And if you don't think so, just try going as hard as you can and with the attitude of I'm never going to tap because tapping means failure, so I'm going to hold on to everything as hard as I can and very last second, and you'll see that you're going to get hurt. Well, what happens is that you're going to one day probably need shoulder surgery. How much does shoulder surgery cost? $5,000, maybe more. Well, what's your significant other going to say? They're going to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing jiu-jitsu, right? You got a job or, things like that. And you can't afford that in today's age. And if you're a young guy who wants to be a world champion, then you can't afford 6 months off with a busted shoulder or maybe even longer than that. So when you come to class, you got to have this attitude that, hey, I've tapped and I'll tap again. And tapping is not the worst thing in the world because every time you tap, you figure out a way that didn't work for you, and you keep on trying. And what happens is this, is if you'll have the attitude that I'm playing around here, I want to tap this guy out, that's my goal, but I want to play around and I want to do my very best. But if I get caught, I'll just tap, it's no big deal. You will find that you'll have a much more fun time, and you will find that you won't be getting submitted much anymore, and you'll be submitting this guy. But the goal is not to tap people 10,000 times, but to get tapped 10,000 times. And when you're doing that, what's happening is you're not going up against people that are real easy to beat. I mean, you've seen that before. You want to stick with guys that you can kick ass on and not have to go against the real tough guys. Man, go against some of the tough guys, You should go against everybody. But, man, you shouldn't be afraid to go and get tapped by a brown belt or something because it's easy. If you got the attitude, hey, I'll tap, that's cool, and you just keep going. And then what happens is the professor always says this. If you're the guy starting out in class and you'll tap and you'll be wrestling with somebody and they get you in something and you tap and then you smile to him and say, hey, what'd you do to me just now? He's going to be more likely to tell you what he did to you, how he tapped you. He'll go, I'll show you what I did to you. As opposed to this guy that's going 110%, trying to kick the crap out of this dude, and he just barely manages to tap you, and you ask, hey, what did you get me with? He's more likely to go, hey, I don't remember. I got lucky. And he's going to withhold stuff from you. So if you're the guy that's real happy, going in there, having a good time, a cool guy to roll with, you get tapped a lot, guys will share information with you. They'll let you know what they're doing. And about a year later, 2 years later, when you decide you don't want to get tapped anymore, you know everybody's game, it makes it easy for everybody. So, people aren't going to agree with me. There's going to be a lot of people, hell with that, I'm not going to tap. Okay, well, then you're going to have to pay the price when you're going so hard that you're going to get injured. And tapping is the name of the game. So I want to urge you, don't be afraid to tap. It's not failure. Failure is quitting. You want failure, quit jiu-jitsu. That's failure, right? Tapping is merely one way that something didn't work, right? And how are you going to take chances? Because you're not. If you have to continually win all the time, you're going to do your favorite moves, the same old tired shit you've always been doing. You're not going to be trying anything new. You're not going to be going and having a good time. Why? Because it's all about winning. And you know what? When you got to put all that pressure about winning on you, things just aren't as fun, man. You're not trying new things. You're not practicing new things, and that's the sad part about it. Lots of guys will disagree with me, but man, I've made it 21 years without any really major injuries, so I'm pretty happy. I know a lot of guys who didn't keep doing jiu-jitsu because they got injured.
Yeah, so, it's about longevity.
It's about longevity, yeah. It's about longevity. If you're 21 and 22 and want just a real quick career in MMA, yeah, go ahead, rock and roll. Muscle the hell out of everything. Your career will be over, and you'll be. You won't last very long. Better have some good health insurance too.
Your coaching aspect. Let's talk about that. What's the best thing that's come out of being a coach?
Well, one of the best things that came out of being a coach is actually the ability to coach, man. That you think in jiu-jitsu, rolling is a thing that you got to acquire. Well, I got to tell you this, coaching is one of the things that you got to acquire. And if you are an instructor, what you should do is when guys are rolling, you should be off to the side coaching them vocally, as far as what they should be doing, and that'll really help you in the tournaments. And guys always wait until the tournament to coach, and it can be tough. I used to say, hey, put your arm on his neck. And I wouldn't say, hey, put your right arm on his neck. That's what you got to do. You got to be exact. Well, the way to do that is to practice it. I mean, and practicing is the way to greatness as far as coaching, because now you have an extra man teaming up with you when you're fighting a dude. Now, as far as what's the best thing to come out of coaching, it's me on a personal level. As far as what am I getting out of it, man, I love to see people win. That's awesome. And let me just say this: we talk about in class that you should be tapping 10,000 times. All right, and I want to make this perfectly clear. When you're out on the street, oh no, it's go time. You're giving it 110%. There's not going to be any tapping out. You're going to go, right? At the tournament, you're giving it 110%. You're going for it. That's the combat in the arena right there. When we're at our gym, that's not the time to have Abu Dhabi night. It's the time to be learning and working, and that's where we tap 10,000 times. But when you go, like if you're at the Worlds or at the Pans or whatever, you're going for it, man. You ain't gonna tap out. You're gonna wait till the very last second if you possibly can. You don't quit. So, and when you're in war, there's no taps, and that's what I tell my guys. I mean, I say, hey, you're going to win. They're gonna try to muscle the crap out of you. You go there, you're not tapping, go tap them out. But when you're in the tournament, when you're at your school, that's when you should be tapping 10,000 times. So I want to make that perfectly clear. So my greatest thing as an instructor or as a coach is I love to see the wins, man. And we sit there and talk it out. It's so awesome when you're at a tournament and I'm sitting there having a conversation with one of my competitors as he's in the I guess the arena, so to speak, of doing the match, and man, helping that guy out to succeed. It's really awesome, man. Helping others to succeed is a really, really positive benefit for your life. And when you're too old to compete, be an awesome coach, man. Just go and help coach and help these guys to succeed. And it's kind of sad because I think that coaches don't get enough respect. And I'm not just talking about me. It's cool. I don't really care all that much for me personally, but man, I see a lot of the competitors it's all about me. I'm the one who done it. Well, that's sure. But your instructor and your coach has helped you out a lot, and you should never drown the man who teaches you how to swim. So always have a positive attitude. And that's what I try to do with Professor Sauer, is always keep a positive attitude. I talk a lot too, so.
Good, man. It's all I actually really enjoy listening to the people I talk with on the podcast. Every episode, I find like I'm getting better without even competing in jiu-jitsu yet. I take something from this person. Like it's really true. And so far from what I like about you is when it is a tournament, it's not time to tap. I like that mindset. Me and Jer talk about this all the time on the show, off the show, is the mindset while competing. It can't be blurred. You got to have that killer instinct, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes. And if I could interrupt you right here. So I tell my guys, I go, hey, it's the tournament time. You go out and you kick some ass, all right? It's about kicking ass. You're not taking names. You're just going to beat the crap out of somebody. That's the goal. And I'll tell you this, if he won't tap, break his arm off. Bring it home to me. I always tell him, hey, go break his arm, bring it to me. And I know it sounds vicious. Hey, man, that's what a warrior's all about, But in training, in the studio, I can't have that attitude. If we're breaking off each other's arms, man, I'm not going to have any students. So that's where people always think that, Keith Owen's always talking about tapping 10,000 times. And, yeah, it's tapping 10,000 times in your school so that you can keep your competitors, so that you can keep your guys, and you can keep friendships, too. I'm going to tell you this. That's important in the school by just tapping. instead of hold on making a guy hurt you or something like that. But I'm going to tell you this, at the tournament, it's kick-ass time. There is no, and don't feel bad for that guy. He shouldn't be in there if he can't take it. All right? Now, I know that's harsh, but we're there to win. And that's our attitude when we go there. People have this attitude. People think, oh, we're so nice and gentle. And yeah, when we're at a tournament, we're there to win, and that's what my guys do. And that's why we take a lot of gold medals, because we're serious about it. So I hope that you're serious when you compete. Just not so serious when you train at your school, man. It should be about fun, having a good time.
I like that.
If you could give one advice to all BJJ athletes, what would it be, do you think?
If I could give one piece of advice to BJJ athletes?
Yeah. Or coaches or something.
If I could give one piece of advice to BJJ athletes, you're going to have to take it up a notch or two in jiu-jitsu world. I'm going to say this. Let's just take the Olympics, for instance, all right? And I want you to visualize this. Go watch a program on Michael Phelps. That guy's in the freaking pool all the time. He's working out. He's working hard. He'll spend 8 hours a day in the pool, eating right, positive mental aspect. He's got his mental game all right. And I'm going to tell you this, eventually this is what it's going to take to be a champion. You're going to have to be working out 8 hours a day on the mat. Now, I'm not saying rolling the whole time, but you're working on moves. You're exercising. You're getting into shape. You're taking the right supplements. You're getting your mental game in order. That's super important, man. Your mental game is really more important than your physical game. You got to have your mind right. You got to have that positive expectation that you can win, not just in jiu-jitsu, but in life too. I mean, you got to have this attitude that you can win. And if you don't have that attitude, you're not going to be a champion. Just don't even try, man. Don't try. If you can't bring the mental game, don't try. But you're going to have to be working out 8 hours a day. You're going to have a great coach. You're going to have to be able to weight lift properly, have that kind of coach. That's what it's going to be in the next 20 years. I can see that. And if jiu-jitsu ever gets to the Olympics, it's going to be a Michael Phelps kind of situation where you're working out like that. So my advice to jiu-jitsu guys who are training, want to be that world champion, that coveted world champion, if I cared enough to train a world champion, we'd be training every day. We'd be putting at least 5 hours in every day, making that kind of commitment to be awesome and trying not to get him hurt, but working on his game and going over and repping things out and working with different opponents and making sure that things are going well, and I want to, and this, I shouldn't even bring this up, but we talk about steroids, and a lot of guys are going to be doing steroids like that too. I mean, that's just something to get the upper hand, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but people are going to be doing that too. So you have to, if they don't regulate that somehow, people are going to have to go to that level because everybody else is too. So that's my advice is stay off that shit, because it'll wreck your liver and it'll create a bad life for you later on. But just understand that in the future here, that's what people are going to be doing. If they're not doing it already. I'm not naming names or anything, but I see a lot of people are probably doing that kind of stuff. So, and it's,
Keith, real quick, do you think it will ever become an Olympic sport?
I don't think it's going to become an Olympic sport. And I hate to say that, and I'm going to sound, people are going to hammer me on that, but I think judo's been in there a long time, and judo, people combine that and say, oh, we already have judo, we don't need jiu-jitsu. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at the Rio Games, because they can do they get an event, I can't remember what it's called, but they get an event to be, to showcase their sport. So if they're going to do it, it's going to be right there. After that, I don't think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will be an Olympic sport. It's too bad, because it's completely awesome. I bet you MMA has a better chance of being an Olympic sport than in the future than BJJ if Rio doesn't take it on as one of their sports. So that's what I think. I could be completely wrong. Not the first time, but
I don't think there's a lot of countries that can represent jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that too. There's not enough countries maybe, but definitely I think on a spectator side, I think MMA visually obviously is probably a lot more entertaining for fans to watch.
Yeah, completely. That is a completely awesome point that you bring up because it's much more exciting. It's much more cool for the guys who aren't into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is boring as hell.
Yeah,
It's like they don't get it. They don't. It's like I don't want to sit here and watch this guy. I love watching it. That's the chess match of the whole thing. But agreed. MMA is much more sexy than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think they should take. I shouldn't say this, and I should shut up. But a lot of times maybe judo should go, or we could find something. I gotta leave judo in, throw something else out, and bring Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in. But I just don't think I'm skeptical. Let me say that.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Skeptical. It hasn't happened yet, and it's really barely becoming a topic. Just amongst a few BJJ people. I got a question though. Gi or no gi?
Gi or no gi? I say yes.
My question. It's what's better for a student to understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because people love no-gi. They start no-gi, they don't even bother putting a kimono on ever. I think that's ludicrous, and I'm just really biased. But what are your thoughts?
Let me say this: there's been a huge controversy about gi, no-gi for the longest time. It's died down because people don't want to talk about it anymore. But personally, I like both. And man, for the last few weeks, we've been doing no-gi here at my school. We're rolling no-gi. It's a lot of fun. But for a new student, man, you got to wear the gi. I'm totally convinced about that. Let me say this. I love 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I'm friends with a lot of the guys. I love 10th Planet. A lot of people are going to hate me now because I just said that. But I think I've stolen a lot of their moves. And then I show it to BJJ guys and they're like, oh, that is the coolest move ever. Yeah, I just stole it from, 10th Planet, who supposedly hates gi. You know what? And if 10th Planet hates the gi, cool. That's fine. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. I know what works. And for a new guy to come in and start training, he should put on the gi. If you're an MMA fighter, and you want to learn your ground game, put the gi on. The gi slows you down. It's much more technical. Learn how to stop the chokes. When you take it off, I feel that all you need to do instead of pull is hug really tight. Hug is not the word I want to use. Clinch really tight. You get tighter there and you work on that. But it's easy to transition from the gi to no-gi. It's super hard to transition from no-gi to the gi. I like to have the best of both worlds. I love the gi. I think it's so much fun. There's so many more moves that you can do with the gi as opposed to no gi. And I'm just a guy who wants to have it all. And I tell you this, my guys take off the gi. They're pretty good. No-gi guys, I don't see a problem. We win lots of medals no-gi. And, there could be these arguments, so forth and so on. But, man, if you would just put the gi on for a while, and then when you take it off, man, you don't have to worry about your neck. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. And you'll find yourself a lot more quicker, a lot more faster, a lot more seeing things that the no-gi guy might necessarily not see. So I don't care what anybody says. I think the gi is the way to go. I'm always going to do the gi. It's a lot of fun. And when I don't feel like doing the gi, I just take it off, and I practice my no-gi. So I'm completely cool with that. So, whatever. And it's pretty, and if a guy hassles me over that, fantastic. I know the truth. And so I think the gi is the way to go, But no-gi is the way to go, too. You can't just be a gi guy and not do no-gi, man. Take the gi off, too. You should be able to do that, too. So I'm not saying, you should always be doing the gi. I don't subscribe to that. I think you should do no-gi a lot, man. It's a lot of fun. But you can do both is what I'm saying.
Agree.
I got a personal question for you. I started off doing jiu-jitsu. Now I'm Greco-Roman. Do you think it'll help with the clinch, like underhook, fighting for underhooks while doing jiu-jitsu?
Will Greco-Roman help in Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
With
wrestling in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll help. I think wrestling will help in Brazilian jiu-jitsu too. That's one of the things, if I were to criticize jiu-jitsu, is that the takedowns suck. You need more. That's where wrestling can help. I have a wrestling coach in my school who's awesome, and he teaches us takedowns, and I think it helps to that pull on that tightness too. So yeah, I think wrestling, Greco-Roman, those guys are badasses, man. I'll pick you up and slam you on your face, and that's cool. But when you get to the ground, you want to start playing your jiu-jitsu game. That way you don't get hurt. That way you least amount of force necessary.
I agree.
Did I answer your question? I don't know if I did, but
You did.
I just ramble.
No, you answered it perfectly.
Thank you.
For those that don't know, I heard you once say the 3 T's. Can you just repeat them? Because I kind of laughed because I think one of them was the same thing twice.
Yeah. My 3 T's of jiu-jitsu, I called it technical, tough, and technical.
Okay, I thought so.
Those are my 3 T's, and guys, have been, I get that all the time. People will say the 3 T's. Now, if I were going to change that last technical, I would change it to tenacious. So tough,
Nice.
technical, and tenacious. If I were going to, but I value technicality, being technical above, above everything. And you know what? Tough plays a huge role in it. And tough can be a negative term in jiu-jitsu, but I don't think so. Because tough means that, hey, I've been on the bottom here for about 35 minutes and I can't get out, and I'm not tapping, and I'm going to keep going. And even though I'm being crushed, I'm going to keep on hanging in there. And that's the tough that you need to have, to be patient to get out.
I agree. I just want to get your take on this because you've been in the game a long time. I know I read a blog of yours about BJJ black belts should attend seminars a lot. I want to brush off from that, but do you feel I see it all the time, tournaments, I get so excited to go, there's a black belt division, and then what ends up happening is there's no black belts showing up. A lot of people I find at the local scene, obviously not the big tournaments, everyone wants that title, so they go compete. Smaller tournaments, I find people are hiding behind the black belt a little too much because the loss might reputation. What do you think?
Oh, I totally agree with that. It's tough being a black belt, man. Let me just say this. There's a lot on the line, man, because we've made the black belt to be so godlike. Once you're a black belt, you must be God. And geez, I don't feel like God. I feel like I got some holes in my game that I need to work on and I need to get better. I'm brave enough to say that too. And I guess that's my problem in life, is I don't come off as I'm all invincible and I'm the super tough, because you'll see, especially in the Brazilian culture, that kind of weakness is not to be shown. And so we got these guys that have to act tough all the time. And you get your black belt, supposedly you know everything, right? So you couldn't possibly go to a seminar and learn anything new. And this is my take, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't see many black belts at seminars, and I'll tell you, the really smart guys are the ones that go to seminars, and they're the ones who know a lot of stuff because they're not afraid to take new moves. And there's so many awesome, cool moves that you can learn from any black belt. But trouble is they don't want to go because they don't want to look, they don't want to be there working out with their blue belt in a class, and I just think it's completely wrong. It's a bad attitude. You should be going to seminars, and I don't care what level of black belts you are. I even like brown belts too. Brown belts are cool to learn from because they're just black belts that haven't got their belt yet. They're still working, but they know a lot of cool moves too. And I really enjoy working with brown belts too because I can pick up really awesome moves. And I'm a thief of jiu-jitsu. I'll steal a move from anybody. I'm cool with that. But a lot of instructors are thieves too. They just don't want to give anybody credit, and they don't want to be seen to say, oh, I'm actually learning something new. Because now it's easy just to sit on the internet and learn your moves and not actually go to and give anybody any credit or anything like that. And so there have been a number of black belts that come to my seminars and they walk away going, wow, I learned a lot. And I really appreciate that because it shows that, they're willing to learn. And that's the key, man. You want to be one of the great jiu-jitsu guys. Get all the knowledge you possibly can. Get it where you can. As far as competing goes, man, you don't want your ass kicked. You don't want to say, hey, I lost. It's tough to put it on the line as a black belt. You got all your students watching. And I think it's just the opposite. Your students would like you to compete. I competed at the U.S. Nationals, I think it was, about 3 years ago. I thought that was fun. I lost on points, but man, it was fun, and I'd like to do it again. I'm super busy, but competing is not a bad thing, man, and black belts should do it too because it's such a good example. However, if people's self-esteem is low, they're a black belt, they don't want to show that maybe they could lose. I tapped out a lot of black belts just rolling with them and, in private training, and I'll never tell who I tapped out. It doesn't matter. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I got tapped out by a number of black belts too, and you just go, wow, that was cool. That was a lot of fun. It was like, who cares? We're just, but they put so much on the line in their mind that they can't take a chance and just go do the tournament, man.
Do you think,
go try it.
Do you think that's what's holding back?
Say that again?
Do you think that's holding black belts back from their full potential?
I don't know. I don't know if it is, but it's definitely showing a side of their character, of their self-esteem. Because if your self-esteem is good, losing is not the worst thing in the entire world. That's not the worst thing. I mean, because winning, to me, is a long-term endeavor. It's over the years that a winner develops. Yeah, you could go to a tournament and you lose, but what happens if you lose? Are you a loser? Well, you might be a loser just in that one instance, but overall, winning and losing are a long-term concept to me. So I have no problem. I tapped plenty of times, like I say. I tapped before, I'll tap again, and I would do a tournament. It's not a big deal. There's just a lot of training involved and a lot of time effort. Do I want to put that time in there? But to make it a self-esteem issue, wow, I can't possibly lose. One of the guys to me that I want to say who I really admire as far as training, well, two people. Hinata Tavares, small guy, man, he is buff. That guy goes and he trains hard and he goes to kick ass and he's like a warrior. And his student, Pete Wilhelm, who, just they're a couple small dudes with big, huge hearts. They love to compete. Those guys have lost. They came in second. They don't care. They just want to keep on trying, and that's I believe, what a BJJ warrior should be. So you go lose. So what? And if your students are like, oh, you lost the match. Well, I mean, welcome. You get in there too, and you'll see that you'll lose the match too. We're all going to lose something, but winning is a long-term endeavor. So those two guys are exciting competitors, and it's cool, man. And a lot of people lose and they get all sad and frustrated and mad, and just get back in there, man. Quit being an emotional puss. That's what I'm trying to say. Be tough. Be tough emotionally. Get back in there, man. You're going to lose some. So what? Over the long term, you'll win more than you ever lose. And let me say this, too. Now, see, I'm getting all on my high horse, but, I'm a fan of baseball, and a lot of people hate baseball. That's cool. Again, I don't care. But baseball is a technical game. And a lot of baseball teams, they win 500 and they lose 500. So half the games, they lose. Well, hell, man. What kind of, in jiu-jitsu, you win way more than the baseball players do, but you don't see them freaking out. Losing is part of the game, You just got to, hang in there, keep on grinding it out. And, the guys who are the champions are the ones that are in the 600 range. Wow, impressive, And we could do baseball analogies all the time, but, man, just because you lose a match or somebody taps you out, so what, man? And if guys are like that, you don't want them as your fans. You don't. I mean, because the minute you lose, they'll just go on to somebody else. You see that in MMA all the time. And so, okay, I'm off my high horse now.
No, I agree with you, and it's well put. One thing I was actually really excited to ask you, because you've had the years put in the sport, things kind of go and come back and trend. Was there anything that you were doing in the, I know you started in the 90s, so the 90s or early 2000s, that you've seen come back in full effect? Did you ever pull off a deep half sweep or anything crazy, or a berimbolo, or has there been anything that kind of seems popular lately that you were doing a long time ago?
I want to tell you this. When I started in jiu-jitsu, and this is going to show how old I am doing this, I remember the times where people go, hey, I want to show you this new move. This is a really cool move. It's called spider guard. And people were doing spider guard. And you go, and now spider guard what? Geez, you're a blue light, you know what spider guard is. Somebody probably showed you, right? And over the years, man, all these new guards keep coming in. all these new guards keep coming in, and I just see that once they're created, I mean, they stay there. I don't see things going away. You know, we get the latest and greatest, and that is completely cool. You know, I remember when X Guard first started making its way onto the scene, and X Guard, that's the coolest thing. The problem is, here's what guys do. Guys go, I got a great way to beat X Guard, and then they do it, and they go, and seriously, people were saying that De La Riva Guard was dead. The De La Riva Guard's dead. The Butterfly Guard is dead. Why? Because we've got ways to defeat it, and it's not true. I mean, you know, so in the sense of, I'm seeing new things all the time, but things never leave, man. And you should have seen when I first started, man. There was closed guard, and there was open guard, and man, we've had such great. People are coming up with such great moves. So Berimbolo, great, man. That's fantastic, you know. And people would disagree in self-defense. You don't need the Berimbolo because you could get punched in the face, and you're not going to see X Guard too much in MMA. That's cool. I'd like to know all those moves. That's cool. I want to know them. But I think today BJJ is so much better than it was when I first started. That I don't see anything coming back. I don't see anything leaving. You know, everybody still keeps it all into their game. You know, so the Berimbolo will be sticking around. It's a pretty cool move, kind of difficult to do, but you know, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. So I don't know if I answered that question. I just say I don't know. I haven't seen anything that actually leave to come back, you know, except maybe a Tom McGee's. So.
Last question. Jer's going to ask this the last question, then we're going to close it down with you saying some final words.
Do you think, is Rickson the greatest, do you think?
If Rickson, no, Helio Gracie is the greatest. And I want to say this too, Carlos Gracie is the greatest. The brothers, the Gracie brothers are the greatest because without them, without Carlos, without Helio, without the other brothers, I mean, we wouldn't have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So is he the greatest fighter that has ever lived? I think Rickson Gracie is one of the greatest fighters that has ever lived. He's a very unique human being, and when I think of a master, I think of Rickson and his students, Professor Pedro Sauer. I think of him as a master as well, but just two different kinds of masters, you know. But you know, I think Rickson should get some credit, well deserved. And you know who I think should get some credit? I think Royce Gracie, Rorion Gracie should get some credit too for bringing Jiu-Jitsu to America too. So I don't know in what concept we're talking greatest, but if we're talking greatest fighter, you're damn right. Rickson Gracie needs to be up there, you know, and we can argue about that, but man, I don't think the Gracies get enough credit. And you know, we have this fight between the Carlos and the Helio Gracie side, and I just have equal respect for both of those guys. I mean, I'm so thankful that they did what they did, and I'm so thankful that Rorion brought Jiu-Jitsu to America so that I could have the opportunity to learn. And, you know, Royce Gracie getting into that ring and fighting, man, that's cool. They weren't going to let Rickson go into that ring because he would have beat the crap out of everybody. But, you know, let me say this, and then I'll be quiet here. I don't personally think Rickson did all that he could have been capable of. Now, that's going to sound like I'm criticizing him, but, man, I just feel that events in his life, I think maybe shortened his career a little bit, that some tragic events that I don't really want to go into, but, man, you know, he is, to me, the greatest fighter, and I think to a lot of people, but he still had plenty of career left, and he would have killed everybody. He'd have beat the shit out of everybody, just letting you know. He's that bad of a man. So
that's what I've always heard.
So there's the wrong answer.
I like it, though. I always heard everyone says you don't understand how good it actually bothers me when I hear it because I really want to find out how good. You know, I'm one of those people that want to know, like, I have to see it type of thing or experience. Sure. But Keith, final words with you. Let people know you have your own school in Idaho. How can they reach you, find out more about you, train with you? Basically, you know, I know you got Twitter. Just air it out. Let everyone know. Final words. Keep going.
Well, you please come to Idaho, Boise, Idaho. I don't know if very many people get over here. Great city. Idaho's a great state. You know, if you want to come and train, please come on by to look me up. If you're a knucklehead, please don't bother. We only want good technical guys coming and training with us. So we have a cool school. We open arms to everybody. We enjoy people showing up, and we don't mind tapping either. I mean, you know, guys come in and tap all our guys. We're cool with that. We just want to train. So that's cool. People can reach me. I have several websites. BJJmoves.com. That's BJJmoves.com. Lots of videos out. Put in a plug for Submissions 101. Man, if go to Submissions 101, watch free videos, man. Get more info. Heck, it's completely awesome website. And you can reach me on Facebook, too. If you got a Facebook page, man, hit me up and be my Facebook friend. Love talking to people. And I kind of think I'm one of the only jiu-jitsu guys that actually, does replies, man. Seems like a lot of black belts are just, I can't reply to a lowly blue belt. I reply to people all the time, man. You got questions, just ask me. I try to reply. I love helping people. So I appreciate you letting me on your podcast, and I apologize for my tardiness in getting on here today. I'm usually not like that. Couldn't get my phone to work.
It's all right, Keith. I would like to personally thank you for taking some time out. I know you're a busy man. Really appreciate it. Dropping knowledge. I'm sure the listeners also appreciate it. It's unreal. I'm actually kind of sad we got to wrap it up now, but we'll keep in touch for sure. And
good.
Thank you very much.
I love your Twitter page too, man. Awesome Twitter page you got.
Thank you. And we'll keep in touch soon.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Have a good night.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bam. So, Jer.
Hello.
Name one thing real quick. What did you take away from Mr. Keith Owen?
Man, a lot of things. A lot.
Do you feel bad tapping now?
No, not really. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's part of learning.
There you go.
I think everybody said that, so.
I agree. But he's adamant about it, and I loved it.
Yeah, he's very straightforward.
Real talk. Next week, we'll be back. Me and Jer. We'll have a brand new episode. I'm leaving to New York tomorrow, guys. Wish me a fun trip. Shout outs to Josh Griffins and Clockwork BJJ. I'll be stopping by there and training. I'll have a cool story. I'm only going to do one class. I'm only there for like 4 days. So that's where I'm heading tomorrow. So, right when I get back, I'm ready to do this podcast again, man. I freaking love Tuesdays.
Where are you going?
New York City.
Where?
I should have told you at the start of the show, but
to train.
Clockwork BJJ. So get ready. I'm coming to America, just like Eddie Murphy did back in the 80s. So that's it. Jared, what, you want to say anything?
Nah. Hang tight, dude.
You got to keep that tradition going. All right, guys, have a good night. Remember, like our Facebook page. That's my ending.
Later.